there were people who were working previously as engineers in companies, people who have full-blown marketing degrees from Korea, people who have astrophysics degrees, all of which were being duped. And so it was, that's nothing to say of the predatory behavior. There was definitely, in hindsight, intense predatory behavior. It's the same thing. The stain of the corruption touches everybody, even those who maybe I'm naive, but I think we're genuinely good people at heart. But this greed, this like, I've got to chase this American dream, I'm going to become a millionaire and just sit on a beach, and it corrupts everything it touches.
All right, Mark, I want to jump right into something that you said that really jumped out at me in your message. So you were with one of these Smart Circle companies for, like you said, about 4 or 5 months, not a very long time, but you became a leader. And then at one point, you were called into the office. They were having a leaders meeting, specifically, according to your words, how to deal with the Smart Circle problem.
Yep.
Which is interesting because if I was in Smart Circle, I wouldn't think I'd have a problem. But apparently they thought they were. So can you kind of take me through that meeting, what was discussed and what the whole purpose of that meeting was?
Well, we were brought in, and all of the leaders, we were in a smaller office. There wasn't a lot of space. All of the leaders meetings were behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And they brought us all in, and it was exactly that. It was how to deal with the Smart Circle problem. Up until that point, I didn't really know that we were Smart Circle. I didn't realize that there was a problem, especially because of the company we were working for. I thought it was all reputable. But they sat us down, and they were like, so there's this Devil Corp website. There are these videos, these Smart Circle videos. And my leader was like, yeah. And the thing that really rang true for me is my leader had to, or my owner had to live in a group of like 6 people to support the rent. But they all had this like dissidence where they were aware of it, but they were adapting to it. So they were like, don't say that we're Smart Circle. Somebody talks to you about it, just bring up the fact that, we're not doing the same thing as them. We're not going into the same like big box stores. But they had stopped saying juice because of it. Again, there was no mention of Smart Circle. If anybody said juice, it was like a big red flag, and they were like, hey, no. So they've seen the videos, and they're adapting to it.
Interesting. Okay. That's so curious as to why. Well, I know why, because everything is scripted and everything is brainwashing and deception. Yeah. But it's curious how they say, how can we adapt to this that's out there, and lie to everyone and say, well, we're not like them, instead of looking inside and saying, well, how can we change the culture of what we actually do? Is there a way we can advertise ourselves without actually lying to people, instead of just trying to, I don't know. It's insane how far they'll go. So after that meeting, like you said, you really had no knowledge about it. You didn't even know what Smart Circle was, which is normal, right? I'd say probably 99% of the people who are in for as long as you do have no clue that you're connected with Smart Circle or any of the others, Sidcore, Credico, Cobra Group, whoever. So after that meeting, like, what happened? Like, did you continue on? Were you kind of in denial about it like everyone else, or what happened there?
So one of the things we haven't touched on is the nature of the campaign.
Yeah.
For me, so what we were doing is we were working with people's debt and working with a debt settlement company. So for me, the thought of this, it was a brand new campaign as well. So for me, the scurried and frenzied nature of all this and getting people to management, I had just lodged it in this part of my brain where, oh, well, of course, they're just building a new campaign. They've got to get a bunch of people out there to get these teams to get the product out.
Yeah.
So after I found out about it, it was a huge shift, because at first I was in denial, but I slowly began to see more and more of the predatory side of this. You know, I'm familiar with the bite model. I know all that stuff. And so within 2 weeks after that, I was out.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. So yeah, I do want to definitely talk about the campaign, because yeah, you're the first person who's contacted me who's brought this up. Like you said, it was a debt relief campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So how did this first? So yeah, you're going to have to kind of paint a vivid picture here, because I know nothing about this. Was this, first of all, did you target any specific people? Was this door to door? Was it in store? And what was the sales pitch like? What were you trying to get these customers to do?
So that's a lot to unpack. I'll go for it.
Sure.
First of all, we were going door to door.
Okay.
We weren't in store. We had basically the same information that you'd get if you were a credit card company, which is a bunch of public information about estimated FICO, estimated indebtedness. All of that is public info. Mm-hmm. So we get the same people that match the criteria that this, by the way, exceptionally reputable, exceptionally honest. I want to make it very clear, the company that they're partnered with, I have nothing but, you know, good feelings for. They're good people. So they get this information, and that allows them to create a picture of the type of people who would benefit them. So then we come to the door, we claim that they've gotten a mailer. We have a copy of the mailer. And what we would say is, the reason you got this, the reason I'm here is because you match the criteria of neighbors that we've been working with to reduce high interest rates for credit cards, personal loans, medical bills, that type of thing. Mm-hmm. And then if they were like, no, we'd be like, okay, let me show you. And we'd show them the map and all of their FICO information, all that. So it builds this very reputable idea of who we are. Mm-hmm. So for me, who's being trained on this, I see it, okay, you know, we're building a reputable reputation. I've listened to the CEO of this company. She's all square. And then it's a 2-hour process most of the time.
Wow.
For the sale. It's not a quick in and out like the technology campaign. So it's a different beast.
So so I know the goal of this campaign, but what do they give to you? Like what's the cost, and what was that whole getting them to the end of this 2-hour process? Like how did it conclude, and how did it make for a sale for your company?
So what we would do is we'd do a soft credit pull. Yeah. And at that point, we would be able to see all of their accounts, add the accounts on. It's the same as any other debt solution, right? And then at that point, the office gets 10% of the total enrolled debt. Now we're talking about 24 to 45 on average. The average is $30,000 for any person that we talk to. Okay. So you can do the math. It's a good chunk of change. Yeah. And then you'd split that between the owner, who gets 5. And then if you are brand new, you get 2.5. If you've gone up to a leader, you get 5%. And that's where you stay until you become management.
Okay. So, you know, like you said yourself, the company that is behind this seems reputable. It sounds like it's on the up and up. So what were there any problems with this campaign, or did you notice anything shady?
From the very start.
Okay.
And the thing that bothered me was the fact that, okay, so what would happen is we'd have a bunch of people showing up at people's doors, right? Mm-hmm. So we'd get complaints constantly on the Better Business Bureau. These people are showing up with information they shouldn't have. And at that point, they shifted, and it's like, okay, every time that we sign somebody up, we need to get them to do a positive review for the Better Business Bureau. So this reputable company that has better than average, like, completion rate is now flooded with bad reviews and people who are just getting signed in. So I'm seeing this company that's a good, honest company slowly being turned into something that looks like a scam because of the cruddy business practices. So I don't know if that answers the question particularly, or if that was the context in which you phrased it.
Sure. Well, and I kind of wanted to know too more about just from your own personal experience as a sales rep and eventual team leader for this campaign, because like with every other campaign that Smart Circle and Sidcore and Critical do, there's always elements of scamming. There's always elements of fraud. But this, at least on its face, sounds a little different because you're not selling any products. You're not selling any services. You're selling, at least it sounds like, a way for people to kind of manage their debts, right?
Yeah, it's a debt management system. It's an honest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
so
that was
so the problem really, at least according to you, the problem really was with the idea. It was just how it was rolled out by Smart Circle.
Exactly.
Okay.
They have, because I taught, the owner would come on multiple times. We're one of 25 different affiliates.
Yeah.
But it was all of the same. There was the weird like sexual side of things was still there. All of these people were from other campaigns, mind you. They still have the distinct Smart Circle.
Yeah.
So it was the good company versus the bad management. And because it was brand new, my owner kept telling me, well, you can run it any way you want. When you become an owner, you can run it any way you want. Yeah. You can be, so it was, yeah.
So in your message, you brought up a name, which I first, when I first heard it, I'm not familiar with. El Bassada.
Yeah.
Bassada. What can you tell me about El?
As somebody who was in it, he appeared like a nice, happy grandfather figure. He would bring people on every single morning and run these morning meetings nationally. He would, all over Zoom, he would call people up groups at a time, tell his story, talk individually to them, get to know every single new rep. He was very much creating the facade of somebody who was at the top of a very reputable system. I know that the reason the whole debt relief thing came about is because he had a friend who was in the debt relief business. He went down to see whether they could do something with Smart Circle, but then their business practices were not great. So he went and found this sterling father-daughter owned company. And so that's how he stands at the top of the circle. Yeah.
Gotcha. So when I read your message and I looked into who he was, I found out that, and this is easily findable to anybody on Google, he is the CEO of a company called The Job Window. And I remember when I was in Smart Circle. So The Job Window is a company based out of Canada that the purpose, from what I know, is it basically tries to match people who are searching for a job with the best job opportunities. That's how I understand what Job Window is. However, Job Window has been working with Smart Circle, Sidcore, Credico, and Appco to kind of funnel people toward those scams forever, basically. I remember when I was in Smart Circle, and this was 6-7 years ago, we would get applicants every morning. We'd get our interviews, and we would get applicants through Job Window. And when we would get interviews, we would either have interviews with people who applied directly to the company online or whatever, and then we would have the Job Window candidates. And the Job Window candidates were always like at least we perceived them to be the bottom of the barrel candidates. These were the ones that we perceived they would probably wouldn't show up for the interview, or they wouldn't tell us that they weren't showing up, so they just would forget about it or whatever. Or if they did show up, they would be not prepared, or they'd be unprofessional. So we had a really negative perception of Job Window candidates. But I also know of a couple Smart Circle companies. I think they've both gone under and changed names by now, who used to run videos from Job Window on their websites. So Smart Circle and Job Window, who is the, Al Bassada's company, they've had a very, very, very long relationship. And if you do a little bit more research on this guy, he also has a couple other companies behind him: Appreciation Events Incorporated, Eliron Marketing Incorporated. So these all sound like the same scammy companies that are these individually incorporated companies for Smart Circle, Sidcore, Credico, and Cobra Group. So it doesn't surprise me at all that this Al Bassada guy is at the heart of this, because he seems like another scammy kind of guy. He runs these, he has all these relationships with people that are inside Smart Circle. So, I mean, it just makes sense. And like, your main concern here is, we're used to hearing about Smart Circle and Sidcore and Credico being involved with these massive tech companies, Verizon, AT&T, all these huge companies. But this company that you're talking about, like you said, at least review wise, was very reputable. Once Smart Circle got involved, they kind of perverted them. And now they're seen almost like a borderline scam company. So now it seems almost like Smart Circle is trying to, of course, their bottom line is they're always going to make money, or trying to make money, but they're trying to make money by stepping on smaller companies now, right?
And using their good name. And the thing that differs between this and other campaigns is, a good amount of the time, our morning meetings were about understanding the depth of debt, understanding the different companies, so it wasn't all. This is why I think it will eventually fail. It's a bad campaign because it's too complex. But yes, it's the poison in the well. It's dragging down good mom and pop companies. It's using their good name to cover up their sins.
Yeah, that is really unfortunate, because I mean, there's in as many years as I've been researching this, there's nothing good that comes out from being involved with Smart Circle. It's such a cancer. I mean, I really don't know how else to describe it. It's a virus. It's everywhere. It's a cancer because it infects you, and it like in this example, it brings down the name of everyone involved in it. And it's so unfortunate.
And here's the thing, though, but like the devil, it's attractive. It comes to you and he says, look at this success that we've had with Verizon. Look at the success that we've had with AT&T.
Yeah.
And overnight, all of these mailers, which are useless, that they're sending out, that people toss in the bin every single time, they're actually getting a return.
Yeah.
So, and all they're asking is for a small chunk. So it's alluring. And if you are focused, which this company is, on doing the right thing for your customers, you never really think about what's going on. You just see the results and you close your mind to the entire slave circle. Bunch of people who are being sold on a dream that's impossible are feeling it.
Yeah. I want to get back to your personal experiences in the office that you were in. Like you said, everyone that you worked with came from other campaigns, so they weren't just starting fresh on this. They were coming from all the other tentacles that Smart Circle has out there. What was your impression of your colleagues? Young and impressionable, idealistic, struggling, things like that.
It was interesting. They all put on the air of not struggling, for sure, but you could tell they were. My owner drove a junky 2002 Honda Civic, but then when he started to recruit people, he got a brand new car, thinking that this is all real. So he was sold. There were people who were working previously as engineers in companies, people who have full-blown marketing degrees from Korea, people who have astrophysics degrees, all of which were being duped. And so it was, that's nothing to say of the predatory behavior. There was definitely, in hindsight, intense predatory behavior. There were things that were said in the office that were so unsavory and uncouth, I don't even think I can say it without getting this video demonetized.
Well, thank you.
So, I mean, like really, really bad stuff out of my owner's mouth to the people right in front of them, you know, who are brand new recruits. So it was definitely a mix. It's the same thing. The stain of the corruption touches everybody, even those who maybe I'm naive, but I think we're genuinely good people at heart. Yeah. But this greed, this like, I've got to chase this American dream. I'm going to become a millionaire and just sit on a beach, and it corrupts everything it touches.
Yeah. And it's so unrealistic too. That's the worst part, is that all of these people that, you know, have made it, the handful, literally handful of people who have made millions of dollars off this. Yep. They've gotten it from either they've gotten in early and they've made a career, a lifetime of scamming people. Yep. Or they've gotten, in a sense, lucky that they've had other places for income. They're either involved in real estate, which they don't tell, you know, their people, or their families are rich, which they don't tell their people. So there are a lot of ways to get money and appear wealthy through working for Smart Circle, but it's almost never because you actually work for Smart Circle.
Oh yeah.
Now you, like you said, when you had that meeting, which is interesting. So again, to review, it seems like some of these companies are trying to adapt, I guess you could say, to the truth,
100%.
Adapt to the work that we've done here at the Slave Circle, that our friends at Devil Corp and Juicy Rhino and Devil Corp Review and all these wonderful places, wonderful internet outlets that have attempted to let the truth be known. So maybe they're not saying certain things anymore. Maybe they're trying to not act in certain ways anymore. But for you, like you said, that was really a changing point. You got out of that meeting about the Smart Circle problem and saw it with new eyes. So what finally got you the final kick to get out of this cancerous organization?
Well, my owner started to act exceptionally erratic. As I said, this is a brand new campaign. These were brand new owners. And so I was one of two leaders that he had in his entire thing. So he was at the very beginning all happy-go-lucky because he was building a brand new team, pie-eyed. But by the end, I started to see what will eventually become of all new leaders, which is erratically trying to maintain a schedule, which isn't possible, trying to, you know, deal with these things that don't make any sense all the time, right? He started to go down that path. And the more I saw the bit that I got about how Smart Circle has a bad reputation, and then totally erratic behavior, calling people in, yelling them, saying, I'm going to get this freaking kid out of my office and I'm going to, you know, put him out on the street. I don't really care. And then the next day, oh, we got to do everything we can to make sure that he's as good as he can. I really believe in that kid. Back and forth, back and forth. I've later found out that, rumor has it, he was on some pretty bad stimulants at the time. So all of that behavior started to comport with what I was hearing from the meeting. And I'm like, okay, this isn't right. I have a kid who's right out of high school, who's underneath me, who's being churned and burned, whose parents are saying, get out of this. I now know it's a scam. And I'm seeing evidence that they're not doing anything to get away from this. So I pulled the plug. I just didn't show up for work one day and called them and said, I can't do this anymore. So.
Good. I know you really weren't in it for that long, but have you noticed any lingering effects? Anything that you've had a little had to get over, or has it been a relatively clean break for you?
I felt duped, and that was the biggest thing that I had to get over. I felt, you know, as I said, I know the bite model. I know that scamming companies exist. And after the meeting happened, I went over to my manager and he's like, oh, you're so smart. I thought you were going to tell me and talk to me about this weeks ago. And then the other new guy in the room was like, oh, I found that out immediately after, but I figured what the heck, I'd be experienced. So I was the only guy in there who didn't know. I was selling this dream to a bunch of other people. And for a long time, I just was in this state of depression. I didn't trust myself to go out there and find opportunities. Every single job offer that I got, I was like, oh God, this could be another scam. I'm working now, thank God, everything's back on track. But there was a good period where, yeah, it rattled my world to think that I could have been sucked into a cult and been groomed to become a cult leader, and then totally A-okay with it. And then after I found out, it took me a further 2 weeks to cut this off. Yeah. And then it rattled me, that's for sure.
I ask a question like this to everyone I interview, and I don't know if the answers will ever be good. I don't know if the answers will ever have an effect on anyone, since we've all been in it. But you know, you talked about how everyone in the office already, or at least in that leaders meeting, already was aware of either these videos or Devil Corp or both, but they were still there, and they somehow managed to justify them being there in spite of all of this truth that's out there. You know, is there any action that someone can take to protect themselves from getting involved in this beforehand, or is there anything that could have possibly been said by a support system member to help accelerate the process of getting out of one of these?
Yeah, it's being aware of what the harm of these companies are, what their common tactics are. These videos have done, I mean, I can't tell you how many people just walked out after a week because of, you know, in hindsight, I'm realizing it was most likely because they found these things. I know my colleague who came on after me, he found these videos and watched them. People are becoming aware. So the more exposure that this has, the more that people can talk about it honestly and come to terms with it and make it aware to other people. Like, this is great if you're in, but we got to let everybody know that these are out there and how damaging they can be. You know, all of the stuff that's come up in these videos happens in every single one of these circles, all of the abuse, all of the mind washing. And the more that you can become aware of it from the beginning, telling young people, I mean, there are whole generations of high school and college age kids that, you know, this should be, I really believe that more exposure is the only way to cure this.